Hello, my name is Andy and I am the Village Idiot. I'm armed with a car and a GoPro and an unhealthy amount of time on my hands. I'm using that time to attempt to visit every civil parish in England. You're watching the East Riding of Yorkshire series. Together with the unparished city of Hull, it forms the county of the same name. There's 172 parishes here. Which one are we in today? Welcome back to the East Riding of Yorkshire, everybody, and to the last East Riding episode before Christmas, because next week is the end of the West Lindsey series. I'm beginning this one, which is a linear village outside a butcher's shop. It's very windy here, so I'm doing my best to make sure the camera doesn't fall over. Here we go, here's said butcher's shop. This will also be the end point as well when I return to the car. So yeah, let's get cracking and see what this one's got. This is the parish of Halsham. Here's my disclaimer for people who may be watching me for the first time. I say things as I would in my native accent and dialect. As a result, I may not pronounce things in the same way as the locals do. Remember, I'm a visitor. It's impossible to know everything. Leave me a comment, spin me a like and bash that subscribe button. Let's get to today's parish video. Our last foray into the East Riding this side of Christmas brings us to Halsham, approximately 4 miles west of the town of Withernsea, situated mostly on the southern side of the B1362. Halsham is a scattered farming village spread over some 3 miles of Holderness countryside. The land is very flat, which is a great advantage for a large agricultural area. Farms out here grow many acres of rape, barley, wheat, peas and beans. There are several pig farms as well as a number of cattle, sheep and chickens. Building within the village is very restricted as the land must be kept for agriculture. Every year, a ploughing contest takes place here. Halsham once boasted a very fine cricket team, but that's now disbanded. It used to have a post office and a pub at one time, but those two have both gone to the wall. The village doesn't have much in the way of landmarks at its southernmost or easternmost extent, barring a butcher's shop and a few minor buildings of note. However, the northwestern corner is a different animal. That's the oldest part of Halsham and it contains Halsham House, once an alms hospital. It's second only to the church nearby for being the oldest building in the village. What makes this place really stick out though would be a massive mausoleum built at the back end of the 18th century to house the remains of one of the East Riding's most prominent families. Let's go and check it all out. We begin our trip around Halsham with a drive from the water tower at Rimswell to the southernmost point of the main village. This area, defined by South Side Road at this point, is called East End. It's pretty obvious why. This is literally the eastern end of the village. The fact that East End exists though is not that surprising. From ancient times, Halsham Manor was divided into two parts, known as East and West Halsham. West Halsham was held by the Constable family for over 500 years, the very same family who would go on to live at Burton Constable Hall. They would eventually come to hold East Halsham too in 1379. I think it's fair to say they liked owning land out here. Upon their acquisition of East Halsham, the distinction between the two fell into disuse. The family would hold land in Halsham until as late as 1877. Their original manor house in what was West Halsham no longer stands, but their presence here is still very much felt. A little later on, we'll see in exactly what way. Our start point is at East Riding Country Pork, run by a father and daughter team. You won't find better local meat than in here, folks. A collection of HGV trailers is not something I expected to see in the adjacent field. I wonder what they were all about. Historically, this main street would have been a part of West Halsham. On some maps, this is still marked as West End. Here's the phone box halfway down the main street. No working phones in here, folks, just a modern defibrillator. The rest of the village from this point onwards is residential all the way to the B1362, apart from a business at the very end. Despite being pretty rural all ends up, Halsham cannot be easily expanded thanks to legal restrictions on building. A lot of the land must remain agricultural by law. The modern Halsham resident, though, isn't all that likely to be employed in agriculture. Most of the people who live here commute to work. To be honest, Halsham lacks the basic facilities which would provide local jobs. There's no village shops, nor is there a school. There was once a pub though, called the Halsham Arms, but that closed down in 2007. It suffered severe flood damage in the major UK floods of that year. It never reopened, and it's now a house. Just before we get to the next major landmark, here's a parish notice board. Tick off Halsham, folks. It's in the books. So you've got the butcher's shop at one end of the village, and here at the other end you find Halsham Ponds, which has got a farm shop and a cafe which is called Halsham Waterside. Here we go, you can see the ponds over there. Now I don't want to walk into this because I'm not sure if it's private property or not, so I'm just gonna talk about it here. You can see 3 ponds which I probably surmise are old brick ponds. And the cafe and the farm shop is here. I'm just going to move the camera this way so you can see it a bit more. There you go, there's the cafe right there, which is open according to that sign until the 21st of October and then reopens in March. So there you go, that's the cafe and Halsham Ponds right there. Right, let's carry on. There are 2 more things to cover in this episode, and they're both next door to each other. One is the church and the other one is the Constable Mausoleum. This is the 1579 built Halsham House, which used to be a free school and arms hospital. It's now quite the attractive residence. It sits at an entrance which leads to the church and the church hall. This is the latter. Let's continue on towards All Saints Church. Its isolated location makes it easy to miss. It's surrounded by trees, ancient earthworks and a hodgepodge of interesting buildings. It's had some very noticeable alterations and additions over the centuries. The last time it was substantially renovated was in 1871. That was undertaken by a Channel favourite architect, G.E. Street, who designed its pitched roof, which replaced a flat leaden one. A church with a Norman origin, this was the burial place of some of the Constable family until the late 18th century. The Constable family's old mansion once stood 70 yards north of the church, but it's long gone. The field where it stood is known as Mass Garth. There are also monuments in the church to the ancient family of Oast, the mob we talked about briefly in the Roos episode. Okay, almost bang opposite the church on the other side of the road, you'll find a big building that looks like an observatory. Now that belongs to the Constables. We've talked about these at length in other episodes, and here, this is where some of the family are buried, in the Constable Mausoleum. Let's go and have a look at that to finish off this episode. To the east of the B1362 is the Constable Mausoleum, an enormous Grade 2 listed building set back from the road behind these gates. This is the grass track which leads to it along an avenue of trees. Access to it is free and it's open during daylight hours. The mausoleum is made of stone with polished white marble facing. It was designed by Thomas Atkinson of York. It cost £10,000 to build, an astronomical figure considering we're talking about the late 18th and early 19th centuries here. It took 10 years to build, essentially the entire decade of the 1790s. It houses the remains of several of the Constable family. Inside, it features a vaulted corridor around the base of the tower which contains memorials to members of the family. Be aware the mausoleum is not wheelchair accessible as it's set on a circular platform with 2 flights of steps leading to its entrance. From that platform, here's the view back towards the gates in the distance. This has to be one of the East Riding's most spectacular features. Quite the local landmark, the mausoleum. You can see this for miles around because obviously these trees shield it from that direction, but anywhere over there on a road you can definitely see this thing because it stands out for miles. It's bigger than it looks, to be quite honest with you. You know, it doesn't look all that big, does it? But trust me, standing next to it, it's quite a tall structure, so there's no wonder that it stands out in the countryside. Fantastic. Of course, you have to be very respectful when you come and visit this because it is effectively a grave. It's a big grave, but yeah, it is a grave. So yeah, be respectful when you come here to visit the Constable Mausoleum. Time for me to make my way back to where I began, a long way away in fact. Actually, it's quite a lengthy village is Halsham. You don't realise just how long it is from south to north, and I'm going to walk back to the car, find it, get in it and head back home. And that'll be it for the East Riding until next year. And that will do us for Halsham, everyone. The East Riding will be back after Christmas, and speaking of 2024, all being well, the entire county will be finished next year. There's 41 to go and there's still some beauties to come. Join me next year as we continue our trip around this gorgeous county of England. Bye for now. Thanks for watching this video, folks. Don't forget to like this episode if you haven't already. It really makes a difference with YouTube. If you're new here, subscribe to the channel for more videos like this, and give us a share too if you've got friends who'd like it. You can find all the links to my social media accounts below, as well as my Buy Me a Coffee page where you can donate to the channel. Also, if you've enjoyed this episode, have a look at some more videos in this series. Until next time, I've been Andy, also known as the Village Idiot, and I'm out.